video, we're just going to clarify some stuff. Remember, we're just going over transitions now as I incorporate civil wars into this game and keep it going for, 200 years. So we left off, and I want to make sure that even though I had Caesar in play, Pompey in play, if you go through this game, you could very well not have these guys in play because they could get eliminated in battle, they can be assassinated. But in my game here that I'm just recreating and making sure things run right, it is, the actual players that I'm using, that are historical players. So remember, Caesar had won the Third Civil War against Pompey by points, and then Pompey was removed. Caesar got to go for 2 years the red and try to take whatever they could from purple, and this is pretty much where it ends up. There's still a few purple cities there, but red is owning a lot. Purple's powerhouse is still on this side of the board. And then at 40 BC, Caesar is removed. Now, once Caesar is removed, we add some players for purple. We add Gaius Sextius Pompeius, Africanus, Scipio, Cato, and we start what is called the fourth Civil War. And this is basically the red Caesarian faction against the purple Pompeian faction. And this one is, I have it written down there, there's going to be no supreme leaders, because remember, Pompey has died, and we have a special rule that they cannot pick for the next 2 years, even though red and purple are still fighting. It's not really considered a civil war, and therefore purple cannot pick a supreme leader. Then Caesar dies, and red supreme leader is gone. So, or at least when it started. Now, according to the game rules, you can use the stratagem political and use air and get a supreme leader, which is what you'll be doing. But you don't start with one. Now, the winner of this civil war is the one who owns the most cities by 38 BC. So, the war starts in 40, so there's 8 turns, 16 turns, 24 turns. When 38 BC winter 2 ends, the civil war will end, and the winner is whoever owns the most cities. Once you decide who that is, the losing side must remove all named leaders except one. So with this, we're saying red won. Purple will remove everybody except one leader, and it has to always be your most highest leader rating or class leader. The losing side removes Africanus, Scipio, Gaius Pompeius, Cato, and I think that's your choice. Brutus, Cicero, Libanius. Now, legates don't matter, so we have to remove every one of these, but we're going to allow one of them to live. You can pick any one you want. Now, Imperator is pretty good. You can do Cato or Brutus. There are 2. We're going to say Cicero. Now, remember, there's a lot of politics involved, but remember, Antony and Octavian. Octavian forced the issue. They fought after this because Octavian wanted power, and Octavian felt Antony was too relaxed or too lenient on Caesar's murderers. And after they fought, Octavian and Antony decided, hey, let's get rid of these guys. They have too much pull, too much power, and we can divide up the Roman world ourselves. And that's why at this civil war was taking place, and none of these leaders survived. But we're going to allow you to pick one, whichever one you choose. And Cicero does have the class I, so he is probably the best, and they're going to keep Cicero on the board. And we're going to go ahead and pick Cicero. All the others are removed. Now remember, this went to 38 BC, so we are now in 38 BC. So I just want to make sure that we understand what's going on. because, even though we're going to do our own game and certain plays may not play out the same, I still want to try to recreate history. I mean, I think it's fun. So at this point, it doesn't really matter who lost this civil war. The side that loses has to remove all their leaders, except for if it is the red that loses, then you keep Octavian and you keep Lepidus. If Lepidus is dead or Octavian is dead, then you can pick your next two leaders that are on the board. That is your highest ranking leaders, either the class or the rating. You have your choice. Now, if purple loses, they have to remove all their leaders, and they're only allowed to pick one, period. In this case, you saw we picked Cicero. So, red now has to remove the Antonius leader if they won. Obviously, if purple lost, they only have Cicero. That means Antonius. If Antonius is still on the board, you have to remove Antonius from red, because he's going to switch to purple. If he's already eliminated, then don't worry about it. He's already off. You go get the Marcus Antony purple-sided leader counter, and you add him to purple. And now we start. We continue the game. There's no civil war. Remember, it's 38 BC. There's no civil war now. But you have Antony with purple with Cicero, and you have Octavian and Lepidus with red. And basically, you have the second triumvirate that is formed. So, once this war ends, red and purple stop fighting. They're joined back together again. Now remember, this is 38. We only go to 36 BC. At the start of 36 BC, the fifth and final war for the Republic breaks out between Octavian and Mark Antony. Now remember, that's what's happening in my game that I'm showing you, but you could have different leaders. Now once this civil war starts, there's a couple things that happen. One, no matter what has happened in Egypt, remember, Egypt has been an independent client state. I haven't messed with this entire series you've been watching, but it doesn't mean you can. Anytime you want to invade a client state, you can, and get control of it. You can, remember, with client states, all you have to do is occupy the hex with the leader, with one of your leaders, and you can demand tribute, pay the political point, and see if you get the leader to change sides. If you do, the whole army comes to your side. So there's that. Now, one thing I like here, because things are coming on at certain dates, more intelligent people than me would watch the dates and go, oh, this guy's coming on, or this country's going to hit, I'm going to get ready for it. So what I like to do is what I'm going to tell you now. When this civil war starts, and you'll see me, this happens throughout the game a few times. It doesn't matter what side Cleopatra, or it doesn't matter what side Egypt is on. Egypt will automatically go to a purple player's client country, and it will get the start forces that it should have started the game with back in scenario 3. So no matter what somebody tries to do to it, it will go to the purple side. Now Ptolemy Aegeus, he is removed at 40 BC. I have that down in the notes. You'll see it on the calendar. And he's replaced by Cleopatra. Cleopatra's in Egypt since 40. And when this civil war starts, Egypt will automatically become a purple client state. So we recreate the Octavian, Antony, and Cleopatra war. And we're fighting over Thessalonica and Alexandria, basically in history where the battles were fought over there at Actium, and Egypt, deciding who was going to control the Roman world, Egypt or Rome. So that's where the battles are. You have to control those cities for one full turn. You either lose, you must pick, as soon as this civil war starts in 36 BC, both sides must have their supreme leaders picked. If Octavian is alive, it has to be Octavian for red. If Antony is on the board for purple, it has to be Antony. And so we have the two supreme leaders going at. Lepidus, who was part of the triumvirate, he will stay red But you'll see 3 years later, 33 BC, Lepidus is removed because Octavian ended up exiling him. But that's how you just watch the board leaders get added and removed. This war will be the last war. Basically, you have from 36 BC to 1 AD to fight this. Now, none of these wars that I've been practicing ever take that long. You may spend a year building forces, maybe 2, and then you battle. Once you start battling, you're kind of on it. I mean, 3-4 years is all this should take, 5 years. So basically, start at 36 BC, and you can take as much time as you want. But soon as this civil war ends, we automatically move the marker to 1 AD. Okay, because remember, and if I went, remember, I'm starting at 107 BC. I'm going all the way to 200 AD. That's 307 years. If we count only the 6 turns that we actually fight in, not the winter, not the 2 winter turns, just those 6 turns for 307 years, I've already done the numbers, it comes down to like 1,846 turns, something like that. Well, that's crazy. We're not going to do that. So I've cut it way down, and I skip a lot of years. We just don't need them all. We end up only doing like 145 turns, which is really great. And the turns really go by. You can get together for 2 or 3 hours and do 20 turns. So they do move fast in this game. So anyways, this war will lead us to 1 AD. Now Octavian actually exiled Lepidus from the service because he wanted power. So the triumvirate comes to an end, just like the first one did. 33 BC, we take Lepidus off the board. And the world's basically being fought again between 2 guys, which is Antony and Octavian. We are in the 5th Civil War. Octavian against Antony and Cleopatra. Now, remember, one side has to control Alexandria and Thessalonica, either side, to win this game for 6 straight turns. So this force, I had moved them over to Thessalonica. I decided to let Rome, with a couple Praetorian Guard, go ahead and handle its own defense, and who cares if Antony and Cleopatra sells there, as long as I can hold on to this. Now, I haven't had Alexandria yet, so I'm heading toward it with Octavian. Cicero decided to back up and join up with the other legate here that was watching Parthia. And so now we have this battle on, and Antony went ahead and sailed over to Thessalonica, and we stayed inside. So he has to do a breach if he wants to fight. He does have an engineer. Let's see what he rolls on the formal breach table. Here we go. And he gets a 3. And he does have the engineer, and it's an S. Sortie. The besieging player immediately eliminates one of his besieging units and then performs either a blockade or a storm. Now, you already know a storm is kind of worthless. And Antony has time to wait. I mean, he has to lose a unit. He doesn't have to do this every time, but he'll go ahead and take off a Egyptian cavalry, since this is all he's got right here. So he removes that, and that's it for that. Let's go ahead and fight this. Now in this, we are going to do the special battle tactics. Now there's some things you got to know. When you select a tactic, you get whatever tactic you use, that's what you're going to fight with. So if the phalanx, all units conduct combat. You remember in the basic combat, it's the missile phase first, only missile units. Then it's the assault phase, everybody fights, and you double the heavy armed infantry. And then in the pursuit phase, everybody fights, but you double the cavalry. Well, in this, you don't do none of that. You're still going to have 3 phases, but in the phalanx, if you pick phalanx for the first phase, not only will your missile guys fire, but the entire army, which sounds kind of cool. The problem is, some of these other things are better. Now the big thing here is not only are you picking your tactic and what troops you want to fight with, but if you can roll high enough and you get the asterisks, then you also get to apply a special ability, and they do different things. Anyways, let's start this battle. As red, you can only pick tactics for what your leader rating is. So if the Legate has a 2 leader rating, if he has a 2, he can pick 2 tactics. So there's 3 rounds. That means he can only pick for 2 of the rounds. However, Flanix, you can always pick Flanix even if you don't have a leader, and it doesn't count against your leader rating. So Flanix is always good to go. So with purple, since he's only going to be able to fight 2 rounds, I think we're going to go ahead and put a Flanix on. He's going to pick Flanix. Now, what you do is you pick him, you turn him over, but we already know. Right? I'll just do it so you know. So you would pick that. The Octavian now obviously can pick tactics in every single round. And he'll go ahead and pick the assault. He likes the assault. So we'll pick an assault. So, let's roll for tactical superiority. Octavian has 4. He had to use a military, so only has 2 military stratagems. He'll go ahead and use them. Or do we want to save them? Well, this one doesn't have to fight. Yep, let's use them. Octavian's going to have a +6 to his dice. The Legate here, he had to use 1 for this force moving to Thessalonica, so he only has 2. So he'll go ahead and add 2. So the Legate will add 2. So black is the purple. He's going to add 4. Red adds 6. So Octavian wins. He will go first. He picks his chit. He picked assault. Assault says only heavy armed units may conduct combat. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So there's 45 factors there. You go to the 45, and remember it's what I said. You need to get a 4, 5, or 6. He gets a 4. He just made it. 4 says you're going to lose 5 strength points. You have to take a discipline check and the asterisks you got. So now you can apply the special result to an assault. You have to lose an additional 5. So purple has to take off 10 strength points. We're going to go ahead and take 2 Asian units off. There's 10 strength points. Now it's purple's turn. He picked Flanix. That means the entire army gets to shoot. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40, 45, 53, 61, 65, 67. We have 67 shooting for purple. And that puts us right here on this table. 6. You're losing 10 strength points. So red has to take off 10. Don't really want to lose any legions. I'm going to have to lose 1. Let's take off this recruit. We're going to take off a archer for 9, and we'll take off the engineer for 10. There's their 10 factors. And no check. Oh, my bad. Purple had to take a discipline check. Here's the roll for discipline check. 4. See what they get. And it looks like everybody will pass, but a recruit will go berserk. They have recruits. All these are recruits. Now remember, you can put these veterans and you attach them, and they can improve their discipline class. So this V can do him, this V can do him, and the I can do him. That leaves any other recruits out. I'll tell you what, we'll put 1 on here. So this recruit, oh, go berserk, my bad. Go berserk in a missile round, which this is the first round. It's the missile round. It's no effect. So they passed. All right. Back to Octavian and back to picking chits. So Octavian says, you know, I'm going to do the assault again. And I think purple still likes his odds on the phalanx. So, there's his. So we start. We have an assault. That means only the heavy armed infantry fight. Now this is the second round, and this is the assault round, so they're doubled. So it's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 now. 2. 5 counters and a check. So, I think you've seen enough of how these tactics work. I like them. I think I like it better than the battle board, basically because it's quicker, and you do have control over the way your army fights. And when Antony actually got a breach at Thessalonica, and they fought 3 rounds, well, Red tried to go for a skirmish tactic, and what that did was the Red can only use missile firing units if they're going to pick skirmish. But they had 3 fleets, they had 3 or 4 auxiliary infantry, so they were up at the 20 table. It was pretty good odds. If they could roll a 4, 5, or 6, then they get the special ability because they would get an asterisk on that roll. The special ability means purple in their next round could only pick a skirmish or a maneuver, which means they could only use missile. They're forced to missile or cavalry, which they didn't have a lot of cavalry, and their missile was okay. But the point is, you're forcing the other player to have to pick one of those tactics. And if they can't pick those tactics for some reason, then they don't even get to choose one. So, but I didn't roll the 4. I missed on it. I didn't get the special ability. However, Antony did win this battle, but because it was a siege and he breached, the defenders don't have to retreat. They can just go right back in the city, which is what happened. So even though Antony did a breach, he couldn't defeat the Red forces, eliminate them all, and Red is still holding the city. Now, in the meantime, Octavian, in this other battle, they go for 3 rounds over here at Antioch, and Octavian whoops them. So Purple starts running. They don't stay in Antioch because Octavian's just going to go to Alexandria. Remember, if he holds Alexandria and Thessalonica, Red does, for 1 turn, Civil War ends. So Cicero retreats over to Alexandria. Octavian chases them. Octavian is getting tribute from the Red cities, and I'll show you that in a minute. Anyways, he goes to Alexandria. He gets a breach before Antony does, and Purple didn't have a lot of forces left. And in 3 rounds, Red eliminates the Purple forces. Purple loses the Civil War. But I really like the special battle chits. Now, according to my rules, you can move, remember, from 35 to 1 AD. That's a lot of turns. You don't need them all. You just saw me take 6 turns here. That's 1 year. He moved around over here, fought. That took 2 years. 3 years he came through. The 4 years on this. He was over there, 5, 6. It took like 7, 8 years. That's all it takes. We advanced the marker. It is 1 AD. At 1 AD, I'll come back in the next video and we'll show you how the board shapes up. What happens, and who we have to eliminate and all that kind of stuff. Because it is now the Roman Empire going to be starting.